Hello and welcome to Steps to Maths, and today in number we're going to be looking at rounding. So imagine that Paul, our imaginary person, drove to Galway and he drove there at a speed of 32.872984 kilometers per hour. That would be saying that every hour Paul drove 32 kilometers, 872 meters, 98 centimeters and 4 millimeters. So clearly this is not a reasonable thing to do. So first of all, we can't measure that accurately with the instruments that we use for car speed. So what instruments do we use for car speed? We use a speedometer, and that goes up in tens. So our options would be 0 kilometers an hour, 10 kilometers an hour, 20 kilometers per hour, 30 kilometers an hour, or 40 kilometers per hour, and so on. But imagine our actual speed was something like 32.872. Imagine we had a really expensive, really super careful, accurate instrument that could measure that speed. What would our speedometer say? If you were counting up in tens, I think it should be clear to see that at 32 point something kilometers an hour, we're closer to 30 than we are to 40. And the question then is, at what point, at what speed would we decide that we're closer to 40? And the answer is when we're more than halfway. So if we're going 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 34.9, then we're closer to 30. Once we pass the halfway mark, then we're closer to 40. And we pass the halfway mark at 35 point anything. Okay, at that point we're past the halfway. So at 35.1, we're closer to 40 kilometers an hour. At 36, 37, 38 or 39, we're closer to 40. So this is really the thing you just need to remember. If you're below halfway, you go down to this value. If you're at or above the 35, if you're at or above the halfway mark, we go up to the next value. So imagine we were counting in ones. So imagine we were doing 31, 32, 33, 34, 34.5, 34.44, 34.52. The question is, if we were counting in ones, imagine we were doing this speed. When would we switch from saying 34 to saying 35? Again, we can look at our number line. Imagine here's 34. This is 35. This is 36. We need to think, when am I closer to 34? I'm closer to a speed of 34 whenever I'm less than the halfway mark. The halfway mark between 34 and 35 is 34.5. Anything below this is closer to 34. Anything at or above this, we say is closer to 35. So that's how we round. So I'm not going to tell you exactly how to round. I just want you to think about that if you're more than halfway, you go to the next number. If you're less than halfway, you go to the previous number. And it depends what numbers you're counting in, and I'm going to give you a selection of questions that will ask you to round to the nearest whole number or the nearest 10 or the nearest 100. And I'll let you figure out which you think a number is closer to. Watch out for a couple of numbers. If I had 4 kilometers an hour and I was asking to round to the nearest 10, the nearest 10 is 0. So that's just a little one to watch out for. Some people, they think they're counting in tens. They forget that when you're counting in tens, 0 is an option as well. So don't forget 0 is an option. Okay, so best of luck with that. No problems to you, I'm sure.